Bonjour, class. Okay, so we have already reviewed our IR verbs, RE verbs, and our regular ER verbs. Okay, so now, like I mentioned in the ER video, there are a couple of verb categories that they're not a straightforward ER. Okay, and what I had mentioned was the CER, the GER, and the YER verbs. And in addition to those, there's three other categories, and they call them boot changers. All right. So we're going to go through all six spelling changes in the ER verbs. All right. So first I'm going to give you the categories, and then we're going to go into them in detail. Okay. So the first one that we're going to do or talk about is going to be CER verbs. Okay? And an example of this would be something like the verb placer, placer, to place something, right? To put something in its place, placer. The second category is going to be GER verbs. And an example of this one that we're going to use will be nager, nager, manger. Okay, I'll give you other examples after. The third category that we're going to speak about is YER verbs. YER verbs. So for example, here we have the verb envoyer, that's a V. Envoyer meaning to send, okay, to send a letter. Envoyer une lettre. Nager, by the way, is to swim, in case you forgot. And then, like I said, we have those boot-shaped changing verbs, okay? So we're going to call them, I'm going to write it out, and the boot-shaped. So if you remember, that's going to be column 1, and then this goes into the plural column for the pronouns. You'll see exactly when we do examples. So boot changing verbs, okay? So here we have 3 more categories. The first category in this section is when you have a silent E in the syllable before the ER ending. Okay? An example is going to be the verb enlever. Enlever. It's a silent E because it has no accent, all right? So we call it a silent E sound. And it's located in the syllable before that ending. The next one is going to be category 5. And this again is going to be a silent E. Watch this. In the syllable before ER. So far it sounds exactly the same as this one, right? The example of this one is going to be appeler. All right. So, category number 5 is basically exceptions. Whoops. Exceptions to rule number 4. Whoops. and I know it sounds confusing right now, I'm going to give you two, and you just have to remember those. They are the most common exceptions to this rule, okay? And then the last category is going to be E, accent aigu, in the syllable before ER. So here's another example for that one. I'm going to use the verb célébrer. Here's your ER, here's the syllable before the ending, and it has a E accent aigu, okay? So those are our 6 categories that we're going to go into detail about. So let's get started right now with our CER, rule number 1, Madame Dorman's rule number 1. Okay, so draw a little line. Here we go. CER in detail. Okay? Change the C to a CCD. Remember, this is like the beheaded 5. It looks like the number 5 and you take its head off. So change a C to a CCD before an A or an O. Okay? So let's write this out. So, if you look at the conjugation, you will see this happens for nous in the present tense. Okay. I could have just said to you, just know that every time you get to nous, you're going to have to change the C to a CCD. The problem is, if I tell you just that, when we go into other verb tenses, when we start going into the imparfait, any other verb tense, all right? Whenever that C is going to come in front of an A, as in the imparfait, because you have so many A's in there, you're not going to know the rule, and I'm going to have to teach it to you again. This way, every time you see a C in front of an A, or a C in front of the letter O, you have to change it to a CD. What does the CD do for the letter C? It keeps it soft. So instead of having C-O-N, con, which is not a good word in French, you would have son. All right, so the ending in nous, O-N-S, it would be son instead of con. All right. Let me look at my notes. Okay, so let me give you examples here of different verbs that you're going to encounter. We have the verb annoncer, annoncer, which is to announce. We have commencer, commencer, which is to start. Effacer, effacer, which is to erase. We have lancer, lancer, which is to throw. We have menacer, menacer, like Dennis the Menace. Menacer is to antagonize, to annoy. Placer is to place. That's the example that I gave you on the top when we started. Prononcer, to pronounce. And the last example that I'm going to give you is remplacer, remplacer, as in to replace. Okay? Let's do the conjugation. So, you have your pronouns, je, tu, il, elle, on. Second column, nous, vous, il, elle. So let's do placer because it's short. So again, it's an ER verb, so you can go up to your root, up to the end of your root. Okay? And your ending for the ER verbs is going to be E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. So far, nothing has changed. This looks exactly like a regular ER verb. But our rule says change the C to a CCD before an A or an O. Not here, not here, not here, but it happens here. So over here, you're going to change your CCD, your C to a CCD, which will keep it soft. No problems here, no problems here. So, how do you pronounce them? Je place, tu places, il place, nous plaçons. If you didn't have the CD, it would be nous plaquons. So, nous plaçons, vous placez, il place, elle place. Okay, that is it for my CER. Moving on. Category number 2. So category number 2 for me is the GER. The rule here is going to be place an E between the G and an A, or again a G and an O. This again is to soften your sound. Okay? So, in the present tense, this, oops, how am I writing? This happens again in nous. It just happens to be in the nous again, okay, in the present tense. If you go into other verb tenses, it's going to happen for different pronouns, okay? So, for example, I gave you up on top, I said we were using nager. So, for nager, it would be nageons, all right, for nous. Here is your ONS ending. So, this is where you need to add your E. And if you did the whole conjugation written out